Welcome in, ladies. As we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What is good, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in on a Tuesday evening. I gotta tell you, one of the most important things when you move to a new location or you move to a new area, at least in my opinion, for my personal preference, right? One of the most important things is, hey, we gotta locate a barber. All right, we gotta find somebody to cut this big ugly mug that we got going on. And to me, ladies and gentlemen, the barbershop is no different than any small town restaurant that you love and prefer, or any local Japanese steakhouse that you pay for. All right, what you are going for, and part of what you are paying for, apart from the service or the food or whatever, is the experience in and of itself. Okay, and first off, I gotta say it's very special to me. I enjoy the barbershop. Okay, it is where I immerse myself in the new community that I am now in. Right, that is what I enjoy doing. And again, it's great that we get a great haircut out of it. Shouts out first off to my boy Larry. Thought he did a great job, did his damn thing today. But when encountering a new barbershop, ladies and gentlemen, there are a couple of things you need to be weary of. There are a couple of things you need to be paying attention to, a couple of things you need to pay close attention to, particularly when it comes to the type of barber that you are searching for, or that you are going to land upon, or that you're going to be forced and stuck with, right? And in my opinion, and in my personal experience, there are 4 types of barbers. There might be 5. You can maybe argue for a 5th. But in my opinion, there are 4 types of barbers. There's the boss, right? He kind of sits in most likely the corner chair, all right? He doesn't talk a whole bunch, but he is forced upon or asked upon or waited upon to give his kind of final word on every conversation that goes around the barbershop. He's basically the OG. He's the head of the shop. That's who kind of sits in the corner. That's the first barber, kind of barber in the barbershop. Everyone knows, right? Then there's the talker. Every barbershop's got one. He does 3 times more talking than he does cutting. This guy you need to avoid like the plague. If you have any hopes, dreams, aspirations of getting in and out of that seat in under 45 minutes, stay the hell away from the talker. If you just want to enjoy a great conversation, you ain't got nothing else to do that day, go on, sit down with the talker. He's in every shop. You can find him. The third guy, my preference, right? The guy who's about his business. He might chime in every once in a while in the conversation in the barbershop, but he's really there to cut. Like, he's there to develop a relationship with the customer. That's about it. He ain't really here for all the jibber jab around the shop. He is there to cut, get you in and out the seat, and go. For me, that's my guy. I'm looking for one of those. All right. And then the fourth, he's at every barbershop too. It's the rookie, right? The apprentice, the guy that's chair is probably often empty. And I will tell you, when it comes to barbershops, ladies and gentlemen, if the seat is empty, there's a reason. Stay away. All right. Unless you are in a hurry, but understand that comes with some liability. You sit down in an empty chair, probably the rookie. All right. Probably the apprentice in the barbershop, probably going to get a bad cut. Not let's say the greatest cut. Nonetheless, watch out. Just life lessons, random thoughts we thought we'd lead the show with tonight. Look out. Okay. 4 types of barbers. Look out for my boy Larry. My boy Larry was about his business. We got in and out the seat in about, I would say, 35 minutes. First time he cut my hair, and a great philosopher for my boy Larry. And I think you could apply this in life. Okay, you can't put it back on. Once you take it off with the fade, you can't put it back on, right? Once you make a decision, once you make a take, you can't take it back. All right, so don't take off more than you can, right? Don't bite off more than you can chew, right? One of those good old-fashioned cliches that we love so much. Welcome into tonight's show. We got a loaded one for you, as we typically do. Hit that like, thumbs up button however you found us. Appreciate you for being here. Got a couple layup line takes that I want to get out of the way just real quick. These are nice, easy layup Larry takes. Layup take number 1. Why in the hell are we playing national title games at 9:20? Anybody? I know you guys weren't watching them because last night on a Monday night when Division I national title was on the line in basketball, you guys were obviously watching MBR. I mean, it was loaded up. We had a great show last night. So you were obviously here, so this doesn't necessarily apply to you. But why in the heck are we playing national titles at 9:20? It just doesn't make any sense. Can we get rid of the late night starts? And ladies and gentlemen, that right there concludes all of our basketball coverage for the season. I got another layup take real quick that I want to get out of the way. Layup take number 2 is actually a callback to December. Layup take Larry was absolutely on it in actually December of last year. Look, man, I was sick and tired of watching high school football games be played in like state title games, be playing in torrential downpours. I got after some butt back in December, and word broke today officially. High school state title games here in the state of Georgia will no longer be played outside. But this was layup line, layup take Larry back in December. I mean, it was easy right there for you. Easy bucket, easy take.
Look, man, not to be that guy, all right, but like, this is ridiculous, okay? We're deciding who the best team in all classifications are, and we're in a torrential downpour. There's no way to play even level, even field football in this. Come on, man. It's getting a little bit nuts. Do better.
Yeah, I mean, look, some people can call this, I think I saw on Twitter, some people can call this easy activism grandstanding, right? I believe it's this concept of finding an easy take and going after it and standing on it for the clout. I believe that's what grandstanding is. I call it layup Larry. Again, you might call this type of easy activism grandstanding. This is also known as Captain Easy stance, rather, if you're a Lebitard listener, which I happen to be. But also, in my opinion, these easy takes, in reality, in my life, just like I like to live by a lot of cliches, a lot of these easy takes are easy takes because they should be the take. They're the right take. They're the right opinion, right? Cliches are cliches because they're said over and over again. You know why they're said over and over again? Because they're true over and over again, right? Cliches are not something you should avoid in life. I do not believe. Easy takes are not something you should avoid in life. Easy takes are easy because they probably should be taken, right? You shouldn't start national title games at 9:20. You shouldn't play Super Bowls on Sundays. You should probably play them on Saturdays. You shouldn't play national titles on Monday, right? You shouldn't litter. You should wave back at people who wave at you. You should pay the teachers. You should save the whales. You should do all of these easy takes. They're easy. You should do them. They're easy stances because they're the right stances most often. And those are all nice, easy layup line takes. 7 minutes in, and we haven't even talked Georgia football. We got a load of Georgia football for you guys to absolutely chew on tonight. Going to compare Kirby to one of my favorite rappers and musicians in general, that boy Future. We're going to compare him to him in just a matter of seconds. We're also going to take a look at Carson Beck and Brock Vandagriff's first appearance on, the media availabilities. Talk about what that means for the quote-unquote quarterback controversy or quarterback discussions. We're also going to take a look around the league. I think we haven't done that in quite a while. So we're going to take a look around the league, and we're going to look at you, Jimbo Fisher, clown act, a joke. I ain't hard to find. I promise you that shit. We're going to talk about you, Jimbo, here in a little bit towards the end of the show. So stick around for that one. We're going to talk a little offense. I had a very intriguing, and I mean very intriguing conversation with a former head honcho, so someone very important around the Georgia football hemisphere that is no longer there. Had a very interesting conversation with that person the other day. We're going to shed a little light on that. It's not even something I've even brought to the Patreon audience. This is something direct or given directly to you here on YouTube tonight. So in support of me dropping a little live nug on you, or as we like to call it, a lug, hit that like button. All right, hit that subscribe button. Hit that all that. Hit that comment. Let them hearts fly wherever you're watching us, however you're watching us. Appreciate you for being here. I told you I was going to compare Kirby Smart to that boy Future, and I'm going to do it right now. I made up a fake Kirby quote about complacency a few shows back. I think it was complacency leads to regress while something leads to progress, right? It's just something. Basically, don't be complacent. If you work hard, you'll keep progressing and you'll keep consistently progressing, right? It can be really mundane. It can sound like a lot of coach speak when your head coach constantly comes to the podium and talks about the constant removal of complacency throughout his program. But I have to be honest, as someone who, and if anybody's out there that wants to be great at what they do, as anyone who is aspiring to be good at something or wants to be a part of something great, you have an affinity for discomfort. You don't like being comfortable. I don't like doing comfortable things when it comes to my career. I want to be uncomfortable. Uncomfortable is best, right? It's the reason why we task ourselves with massive goals and massive aspirations around this product. It's why we, at the beginning of the season, I'm not comfortable being on a constant schedule. So what did I do? I put myself in constraints. I made myself uncomfortable. I said, guess what, fat boy? You're going to go Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. That's what you're going to do. All right. And if you don't like it, tough. You got to be better about being uncomfortable. So that's what we're doing. We're seeking uncomfortability, and we don't like to be comfortable. Please don't get too comfortable. It is my favorite song by Future. It is something that I'm trying to live by. In fact, I think there are life lessons to be taken from the lyrics of the great philosophizer that is Future. And I quote, I got a cup full of mud and I'm draped in saline. You can't think for yourself. You got to think for your team. What does that mean? What the heck does that mean? In other words, thank you, Future. Okay. When you make it, when you climb out of it, when you get out of the mud, okay, when you get out of wherever you came from, you still got to take a little bit of that with you. Okay. You can't just lose that. You can't just lose that aspect about you. You can't just lose that edge. You can't just lose that mud, right? Even though you're draped in saline, even though you have absolutely made it, you got to keep that mud with you. You got to keep a cup of it, right? Got to bring it with you. And you got to think for your team on your way up, right? That's what it's all about, right? Continue, in the words of Kirby Smart, to eat off the floor. So I just brought you some Future lyrics. Let me bring you the lyrics from the head coach, Kirby Smart, and you'll get what I'm talking about. This is a head coach who is constantly telling his guys, hey, you might have made it, but we still got to keep that edge. We still got to find that edge. This is Kirby Smart talking about Jamon Dumas Johnson and Smile Mondon here in spring practice.
Yeah, he and Smile are, I think they started out the spring not knowing really like, okay, I'm in a curious position. Last spring, I got a chip on my shoulder. Nobody knows who I am. Everybody's questioning us. I'm the new leader, and they're out there hungry, just eating off the floor. And they had good seasons. Both of them did in their own right. Smile played really well, and Smile had a great off season in terms of lifting weights and working. And Smile's come on and is playing really good. And they go out to spring ball, and there was a point in time there where I felt like I needed to call them in because I don't know that they were practicing with the same ferocity that they would have been practicing with like they were last year. And I showed them some clips. I said, okay, here's last spring or last fall camp, and this is the way you were practicing because you had something to prove, and now here's first 4 practices of this spring. Is that the same 2 guys? And I think they both acknowledged that it probably wasn't, and it needed to be, and that's the disease that's out there. Now, I'll say this, since that conversation, they both have really picked it up and been great leaders, and it wasn't that they were doing anything wrong. It's just they weren't doing it right enough for the Georgia standard.
Don't get too comfortable. That's all he's saying. He's walking around that building telling everybody, hey, do not get too comfortable. All right, I think that's a lesson for everyone to learn. All right, once you think you've got it, once you think you have consistent control over whatever it is that you are maintaining, add a little bit more. Do not get too comfortable. And Mr. Stafford right here, cup full of mud means a cup full of lean. Hey, look, you know what the great thing is about the Bible? Okay, you know what the great thing is about the lyrics of One Future? They're open for interpretation. All right. However you interpret the methodical words of One Future, they're up for you, baby. They're yours. All right. That is Future's gift to the world. All right. So don't be coming out here telling me how I interpret my future. All right. And you know what? Part of my job is to stretch the tape. Let me stretch the tape, baby. God, layup tape. Here we go. Yeah, we talked about not getting too comfortable. I love that clip, man. I love that clip because it's exactly what it is, right? First of all, the coaching, the relationship to know that those two human beings thrive that way, right? To know to be called out, to say, and the visual aspect of it, right? This is something we do on this network all the time, where visually my brain works, or this network works as like, hey, this is what we saw a couple months ago, and then boom, here it is again a couple months later, and we show you those two pictures. We've done that in film. Kirby's doing that with his football players and just thinking about ways to motivate them throughout their career. All right, constantly getting better, constantly sticking on them, not allowing them to get too comfortable, right? I think this was the great point right here from Greg Beck. Right enough are not enough for the Georgia standard, right? That's all he was trying to hold him to, this quote-unquote Georgia standard. I think that's great, though, but I think who he, not quote-unquote attack, but who he chose these tactics with was very, very vital, all right? Jamon Dumas-Johnson, Smile Mondon. These are two football players that are borderline all-SEC, borderline all-American, borderline Butkus Award-winning type football players. These are not scrubs. These are not first-year football players. These are not first-year starters. These are guys. These are dudes on his program. These are guys that are going to be playing on Sunday this time next year. So when I listen to this clip, when I hear this clip, right, what I think about is the stories that I recall about Brady and Belichick, all right? And obviously Kirby doesn't have to apply this to one singular player because they rotate every 3.5 years, right? His best players, his leaders, his faces of his programs, his faces of his units, they rotate in and out every so often, right? Whereas a program in an organization like New England under the Brady years and the Belichick years, that was kind of consistent for a decade and a half, right? And I always recalled listening to people go into that organization and talk about how, you know, it was everyone getting the smoke, do your job, like we're going to crush you and put you on the big screen if you don't. But most importantly, it was led off every meeting where Belichick almost like seemingly made it a point to chew Brady's ass before he got into anybody else as a way to say, this is how we do things. We hold that guy, the greatest of all time. We hold him to a standard that the rest of you need to be applied to, right? He is not the superstar that everyone thinks he is. He is no more uncommon than the rest of the common men around this building, right? It's a very, not necessarily similar tactic here, but what Kirby's sitting back saying, all right, look, 90% of Smile Mondon and Jamon Dumas-Johnson during practice is still good enough for us to be a great SEC defense. All right. But if we're going to be historically great 3-time champion, right, those guys need to be chasing cheese like they were last spring. And they're not quite doing that right now. So how do I go about figuring that out? Well, I challenge them directly. I challenge the highest of these, the highest of highs to the highest of standards. All right. You don't allow guys to skate. You don't allow guys to get away with things. You don't allow 5 stars to do things because they're 5 stars and you promise them whatever you promised them in the recruiting process. It's not how it works. It's not how successful programs work. All right. And I think that right there, that audio clip is a very, very clear example of that. Speaking of, we talked a little bit about quarterbacks there. Speaking of greatest quarterbacks of all time, Georgia quarterback spoke to me today, as you can see in the title of tonight's video. You know, at some programs, you get like every player. I mean, all the time, like multiple times a week, you get to talk to media availabilities. They roll out freshmen. They do all kinds of different things. I know when Norvell took over the job at Florida State, the first thing he did was like make all of his signees available to the media, gave like all of his coaches media availability time, gave like, because all it is promotion for your program. It is people coming through with cameras and questions and promotion, right? That most cases, promotion for your program, putting it out in front of your audience, putting it out in front of your fans, allowing you to kind of, as fans, get, you know, build relationships and report with the players that you root for on Saturdays, right? In most programs. Where at Georgia, like you're going to get coordinators once a year, twice a year if they make a New Year's Six bowl, all right? You're going to get 5 to 10 players a year in rotation consistently. Like last year, the players were Cedric Van Pran, Chris Smith, and Stetson Bennett and Smile Mondon, and then it kind of rotated a 4th or a 5th guy in there every single week. Javon Ballard being a lot of that. They kind of select who they want. It's very selective. It's very few, right? It's very, very fickle about not only access, but fickle about scheduling, how often they do these things at Georgia, right? It's very different. And by the way, I always have to caveat this discussion. I would do it the same way. If I were Kirby Smart, the head coach of the University of Georgia, won 2 national titles, I would run my program and my media availability the exact same way. You wouldn't get in and you wouldn't be around if I had to let you, unless I had to let you in and had to let you around. They don't need it. They don't need promotion for Georgia football. They don't. They got enough people like me talking about it. They don't need extra promotion. They get all the primetime football games. They win national titles. They do not need people walking around their building, taking photos of their players and interviewing them. They don't need it. It's great for you guys. It's great for us. It's great for the machine that is media availability around football, but they don't need that. All right. Other programs might necessarily. So I always feel like I have to give that caveat, but I have to because everyone's like, oh, well, this little Brooks bitchy moaning about not being able to be in the media. No, I don't. It doesn't matter. My job is to come here and do this and then write. My job is my job. We do it no matter what. It's interdependent upon access to the program. Nonetheless, whoever he gives you in media availabilities, like everything else when it comes to Kirby Smart, pay attention. There is a reason. There is a reason behind everything. There are tea leaves to be picked up upon every single time one of these things happens, right? So today, when he doesn't send Carson Beck or Brock Vandagriff out to media questioning, he sends Carson Beck and Brock Vandagriff out to the media. That is so you and everyone else does not make any assumptions, does not pick any sides. Matter of fact, it's his indication that he has not picked any sides. They have not picked any sides. It is them standing by everything that they have done. It is, in fact, them assuring everyone that there is indeed a quarterback competition, as there clearly seems to be. So very much important that you take note of that, all right, and understand that you don't need to be out here picking sides in April. Please do not. All right, if you're going to listen to us, if you're going to be here on this platform, please join us. All right, join us in being educated and being rational this offseason and this season with regards to the quarterback discussion. It will make everyone's life so much easier if we're just rational about this. And the only way to be rational about this, okay, fans, listen to me, is to not pick a side right now, to let the chips fall and then back whoever is chosen. All right. And at this point, like a couple of years ago, George Van, they'd be like, hey, man, Kirby doesn't deserve that type of freedom. Kirby doesn't deserve that type of trust with a decision like the quarterback room. Well, now he's got 2 titles. So just trust in Kirby, right? In this situation. I would probably think he's kind of proven that he's worth your trust here with this decision. And it doesn't look like there's been a decision made. So don't make a decision. That is what I took most from today's media availability. I went back, watched all the video files that they provide us in the media portal over here. Watched them. I think it's very, very clear that both of those individuals are Southeast Georgia star quarterbacks. Okay, and what do I mean by that? These guys were 4- and 5-star recruits coming out of high school from the Southeast. They have been interviewed thousands of times. Brock Vandagriff, I know for a fact, I interviewed Brock Vandagriff maybe 6 times in high school. Different high school games, different high school events, different camps, different Elite 11 events, different things. I mean, that dude, that's just me. All right, there's 7 or 8 different companies in Georgia alone that do that type of stuff, run down types of interviews like that. These guys have been in front of cameras since they were 14, 15 years old. They sound like Peyton Manning in front of a friggin' camera since they were 15 years old. All right, those are Southeast Georgia or Southeast prospects in general. 5 stars like JT Daniels from Cali, they get up and say whatever the hell comes to their brain. That's exactly how he was. I loved it. Kirby hated it. I don't know that for a fact, but I don't think he liked it. I don't think he necessarily liked it. Some of the stuff that he would just willy-nilly throw out there, right? If you're not going to throw it to him, don't recruit him. That was new. Like, it's just out here just like, okay, that's all right. Like, that's been counter-recruited. I mean, that's been said by other people outside of the Georgia program, recruiting against Georgia for receivers. They don't throw to y'all. Then this quarterback stands up and says, some 5-star Cali kid. These kids from Georgia and from Florida and that have been around media and been around quarterback culture and what it is to be a CEO first, what it is to be an operator, what it is to be a decision maker first. Them guys are very calculated with what they say. Stetson Bennett, that's a former walk-on, dude. The last thing that guy was calculated about what he said. He said what he thought. I mean, he would think. He's a deep thinker. If you've ever listened to a Stetson Bennett interview, there might be some coming. Wink, wink. Maybe. I don't know. I would imagine there's a draft coming up. But if you've ever listened to him interview, he's like, he stops and he'll go, yeah, man, I haven't really thought about that. I haven't given that much thought. And then he'll pause again. He'll give it some thought, and then he'll say what it is that he was saying or thinking about. But these guys, very cut and dry, very to the point, very professional. Not going to get a whole lot of quotes out of these guys that you can really run with. I think the main thing is that there's a healthy competition. That's obvious, right? These guys are competing. They feel comfortable competing. They've been competing since they're there. That's all they would say in today's media availability. And also, Mike Bobo is, a hard man. Like, that dude coaches really, really hard. And there's no options. There's no, I hope you are okay with this. It's just, I'm going to coach you hard. I'm going to yell at you. I'm going to get under your skin. I'm going to poke you in the way that you need to be poked. That's my motivational tactic. That's how I coach. There's a lot of football coaches like that. And there's a lot of styles of football coaching like that that are highly, highly successful. It's something that I'm really, really interested to talk to Murray about. We're going to have Aaron Murray on Thursday before we come live here on Q&A. I don't know if you're going to get it Thursday. You might get it Friday. I don't know when you're going to get that. I know there's going to be a standard interview. There's going to be film study. There's going to be all kinds of stuff with Aaron Murray. So stick around on the network. It'll be here in some capacity on YouTube. Most of it, I promise you, will be on patreon.com/Brooks Austin. You need to head over there for that at the end of the week. But nonetheless, I'm interested to talk to Murray about this because I know after talking to Keith Marshall, if you haven't watched that, go back. After talking to Keith, that Bobo and Murray like really butted heads. Like, and when football players say that, like they butted heads, that means like it wasn't just your standard coach yelling at player. It was probably coach and player getting into quite a bit of, arguments, discussions, heated, vibrant discussions. So there you go. That's kind of what I took from today's media availability. Again, man, these guys are very, very well coached with regards to media questions, what to say, what not to say. And again, I thought it was important to note that, like, hey, he didn't send one to the other. He sent both. And again, hammer the point home. Don't pick a side. Not yet. Okay. Let the chips fall, then pick a side. Speaking of offense, speaking of the quarterback discussion, I teased this earlier. We're about halfway through the show. Make sure you're hitting that like button, subscribe, all that good stuff, and spamming the comment section over there on YouTube if you're joining us live. Appreciate you for being here. I was talking to somebody the other day about the offense and the offensive system, and I thought he said something really, really interesting. And I'll be honest, I was always stuck thinking that Georgia's new offensive system, the system that you brought in Todd Monken, paid him handsomely to install and teach, right? That modern pro-style, explosive, efficient offense. In other words, what is Georgia's offense? I was always under the impression that it was predicated on having decision makers at the quarterback position and accentuating that quarterback's personal skill sets within the system. In other words, the system is the system. That's what I thought. That was my previous inclination and thought process on what Monken was brought here to do. Implement Georgia quarterback play. Implement Georgia offensive systems. Implement, this is how we play modern explosive offense. This is how you go about scoring 40 points doing this. That's what I thought. Well, over the years, they've had guys come and go and terminology has changed. And I was talking to some people that were kind of around the Monken installation. We're around the early years of Monken. We're around the early years of like real philosophical deep dives of like who he is, why he is, what the offense is, why the offense is, right? The real nuts and bolts. And I asked that person and these people kind of like, who does this offense favor? You got two quarterbacks that they're really competing. He's talking about three, but it's really two. It's Carson Beck and Brock Vandagriff. Who does the Georgia offense, thinking of it in this real binary, real unilateral like thought process of like this one system, who does this Georgia system fit? I was talking to these people, and the one thing that came back that was really interesting to me was this idea that it is not one system, that it is not one unilateral book, one start to end system. It's not one book. In fact, this system has different portions of the book. You pull one tab, you get an entirely different story. You pull one tab, you get an entirely different story, right? It's an entirely different system within the structure of the total system, right? That's what Monken was about. It wasn't about one style of quarterback play. It wasn't about just one style of offense. It wasn't about just being a 12 personnel team with a big blocking tight end. It wasn't about being a 3-by-1 team that featured an X when George Pickens was being here. It was about all of those things, right? It was about implementing a system that could accentuate whatever needed to be accentuated. So, with that thought process of this chapter, think about it as a book, of this book having very different endings upon which tab you pulled. When I thought about this, the only thing I could think about of which tab are they pulling this spring? You have a quarterback battle. You are telling us you have a quarterback battle. Which offense in this Georgia system are you implementing this spring? Are you installing? Is it the one for the 6'5", 225-pound pocket passer that's got a 1% arm but is really clean in his technique and is a kind of a B-minus athlete? Or are you installing and pulling the tab for the guy who's 6'2.5", 6'3", 225 pounds, is a 4.5 runner, and's got a howitzer on the move? Are you? Which system? Which offense? Which tab are we pulling this spring? And I'll be honest, I can't get a read. I've asked. I cannot get a read. Because why would they? Why would they give anyone a read? Why would you want them to have a read? Why would you want either of these quarterbacks to think that they are favoring one or the other? And you would probably know, right? If quarterback counter is implemented, right? They're asking both guys. Or are you designing different offense? Are you installing both tabs for both guys? In other words, are you installing the Brock Vandagriff Georgia offense while installing the Carson Beck offense? Are you asking the rest of the players to be that versatile? If so, that's great. But when do you start narrowing those things down? I guess that answer comes this fall. But again, man, it just makes me wonder. I'm not conspiracy theorist guy. All right. But it would be very easy to know which offense they've installed if you know what you're looking for. But I think there's only like maybe 6 or 7 people in the world that could walk in there and go, oh no, they're and one of them's Munkin, the other one's Bobo, Smart, probably some ex, coaches that have left, some coaches still on staff, right, that are kind of noticing some tendencies of favoritism towards one type of athlete or one type of style of play. Because I guarantee you that's what it's going to be. You're going to have a different offense for Brock Vandagriff than you will for Carson Beck. Are you installing both this spring? I promise you I will get to the bottom of it very, very soon, if no later than G-Day. And if you want to come back and check with us and allow me to explain that to you, I will definitely do that. So y'all chew on that. I know I am. Again, not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm curious. Hey, which tab of this multi-ending storied book are you pulling this spring? And which offense are you installing for which quarterback? Because you can only play one this fall. So, yeah, there we go. Got one last segment. It is a look around for you guys. We have not done a look around in a couple of weeks now. We got to take a look at the rest of the SEC. We get very, very bogged down on this network talking just Georgia football. How about them? I know you guys love that. That's great. Let's talk a little bit Texas A&M. Clown act, jokes, garbage. You can find me. I promise you that. If you're new, I'm sorry. We're not going to explain it. We're not pulling curtain. We're just going. It's time for a look around this week's Texas A&M. I think it's safe to say at this point the Jimbo Fisher experience has been a massive disappointment. And I had that gummit, Christian Kirby, our producer, is going to be mad at me because I definitely did not put the audio clip in here. Let me see if I can find it. Nope. Dadgummit. Horrible production on my end. There is a video clip of then Texas A&M athletic director introducing Jimbo Fisher at his initial press conference and giving him an empty plaque that says Jimbo Fisher, Texas A&M national champions. And he put 20 and then left a dash for it to be open-ended, as if to say Jimbo Fisher is going to win a national title while he's here under this 10-year ridiculous contract that we gave him. If you guys remember, Texas A&M pulled Jimbo Fisher out of Florida State for 10 years, $105 million. That's what it was. And then I think added on and tacked on a extension on top of that. But he's been there 5 years, all right, at Texas A&M. Since getting this plaque, promising a national title at Texas A&M. And in those 5 years, you may wonder, what's Jimbo Fisher done? Well, I'll tell you what. He's never made a playoff. He's never won the West, okay? And he's never won 10 regular season games. Think about that. That's crazy. He's making for every $1 million he makes in a season, he has not won a game. So there you go. How about that? All right. He's not really exactly close, as producer Kirby here says, to sniffing his goals at all. He's coming off absolutely his worst season. And in 2023, what is, probably a save your job type season for Jimbo Fisher, it's going to be hard. It's going to be a tough road for this football team. If you look at their first 5 games, they should go 5-0. The toughest challenge is Miami on the road, and that should, for an SEC football team, be doable. I don't know, though. Okay, Miami is hot early on in the football season. It's not like it's a tough, raucous environment down there, but you never know. You never know what Miami football team you're going to get, but nonetheless, the first 5 look rather doable. Then you host Alabama before traveling to Tennessee. Those are a tough back-to-back. After that, you host South Carolina, travel to Ole Miss, then host Mississippi State. You finish the season at Texas A&M against LSU in Death Valley. LSU year 2, Brian Kelly at home, tough football game there. If you're a Texas A&M fan, you're probably realistic. If you're realistic, you're thinking nine wins. Okay. If you're optimistic, you're thinking 9.5, 10 wins is great. Is that good enough? Is 10 wins good enough? Is 9 wins good enough? Probably, maybe. But if it's anything like last season, not great. Also, don't know if you know this, they hired Bobby Petrino, neck brace Petrino. You know neck brace Petrino, on the motorcycle with his assistant that he's having an affair with, Bobby Petrino. Left I'm sorry, I'm gone note cards in the – was that Jim Mora? Falcons, Bobby Petrino. Louisville, Bobby Petrino. Bobby Petrino. That's right. Was that Rick Pitino? Bobby Petrino at Texas A&M, offensive coordinator. Also, sketchy as to whether or not they're even going to allow him to call plays this year. Jimbo was asked about that. Didn't love the tone there. Don't necessarily love all the tea leaves and inklings around Texas A&M this year, as you would probably imagine. But here's the deal. The oil money ain't going nowhere, and the NIL sanctions ain't coming down. So Texas A&M probably still going to continue to land high-quality football players no matter who's coaching, no matter what's happening, no matter if the writing is on the wall, no matter if they come out mid-season and say they're firing Jimbo Fisher, they're still going to get some good football players, all right, as they always have, especially since coming over to the SEC. But I do wonder, because for the longest time, they had some recruiting sway on the trail with this SEC moniker. They could go into West Texas. They could go into Dallas. They could go into Fort Worth. They could go into Austin. They could go into, I don't think Austin's a hotbed. They could go into Houston. They could go into these areas of Texas. They could go into areas of Oklahoma where elite football players reside in the Midwest, and they could say, guys, they play a Big 12 schedule, Oklahoma and Texas. We play an SEC schedule. That is gone. That ceased to exist. It's part of the reason why Texas A&M's athletic director threw a daggum temper tantrum when trying to keep Texas and Oklahoma from joining the SEC. So all of those things are gone. All of those advantages are now gone for Texas A&M, but the money resides, right? The oil money resides, and we shall see. I will tell you that the people that I talk to in college football that mean the value, that opinions are valued by me. I will tell you that they don't necessarily believe in NIL-based cultures. And why would you? They don't necessarily believe that telling kids on the high school circuit that you're going to pay them X amount of dollars, and then turning around and asking a 22-year-old that you don't pay jack squat to go out and play hard on Saturdays, the shit does not line up, folks. It does not add up. If you're giving, and I'm not saying this is the case, but I'm speaking in broad terms. If you are giving some high school or some freshman that just got onto your roster or some early enrollee that's 17, 18 years old, just got on campus, if you're giving him X amount of dollars every month in his bank account, and it's much, much more than you're giving the guy that's starting on the roster, that's actually contributing to your roster, Do you think that guy's necessarily loving where he's at in life? No, you wouldn't either. So those things, those cultures, they don't work. Okay, the old guys don't play as hard as they should. The old guys aren't as happy as they are. And the young guys aren't incentivized to go chase the cheese, which is something we talked about earlier. All right, so I don't necessarily believe in all these fourth quarter football teams being great when they're NIL based, because that stuff does trickle down. What you're doing it for, why you are there, why you worked hard matters when it comes down to the increments in the bottom lines of the fourth quarters. So there we go. I'm going to play a clip, though. I did load this one. Hey, first of all, Hugh Freeze looks like hell in this clip. I don't blame him. I don't. It's spring practice time. I don't think he knew this was going to go semi-viral. But, hey, shouts out to Hugh Freeze. And Lord bless you, sir. And here we go. Your first debut on the Film Guy Network with an actual decent take.
The solution is allow us to scrimmage somebody on a day, another team. And I think everybody would get out of it exactly what they want. And if everybody's doing that, then, and let's adopt a charity to give all the proceeds to. Let's take foster care in the state of Alabama or orphan care in the state of Alabama, and let's Alabama play Troy and we play UAB or vice versa or whoever. I don't care. Teachers. Or Alabama State or whoever, and people will come see that. And you're decreasing your injury possibilities by 50%. And coaches are smart enough to control, we're not going to hit each other's quarterbacks. We practice that way. And if you want to put a blue jersey or a different jersey on somebody that's don't take to the ground, we can do that.
All right, that's enough. I don't have to let the whole clip run. Hey, Captain Easy Stance, Layup Larry. I hear you, Hugh. Yes, give me spring scrimmages, actual spring scrimmages. I'm not opposed to this take. You know why? Because it does not allow coaches to just charge $5 for entrance fee and then go out there and have a glorified practice. That's basically what we watch on G-Day. And I get it. You don't want to show anything. I understand you would be same basic install guy if UAB came to town, or in this case, if you were to do it in-state rivalries or in-state Power 5 versus a mid-major. If Georgia State comes to town, I know Kirby's going to throw it 75 times in a football game that doesn't matter to keep guys safe and keep guys healthy. That's what he does on G-Day anyways. Guess what? Spring day, they are going to throw it 95 times. All right? You know why? Because they don't want to run the football. You know why they don't want to run the football? Because they don't want a collision. That's just not what they want to do. So they're going to go out and throw the football. Do not go to Twitter and be like, oh, Bobo's going to be choking it this year. Maybe. But the spring game is nothing of an indicator for that or about that. Okay? But if you actually played another football team, you might get some real football. We don't get very much real football when it comes to G-Day. Shouts out Hugh Freeze. Pay the teacher, save the whales. He even got some charity in there. I mean, I love it. Captain Layup Larry right there with the easy take, just hitting all the heads. Let's actually get a football game in here. Let's protect the players. You heard that part. You decrease your injury chances by 50%, right? Good old Hugh. All right, and then let's get the charities, and let's make sure we get the orphans too. And if we can, let's raise some money for the teachers and let's save the whales. Shouts out Hugh Freeze with an actual good take. Cannot believe it. Had a boatload of good takes here for you guys tonight. Hope you enjoyed it. Hit that like button on your way out. I appreciate you for being here. I love you. We'll see you next time.